Carter, if you could set the scene for us. The aviation market's gone through some quite radical changes recently. What's the current outlook for both passengers and airlines?
I think for both passengers and airlines that a lot of that depends on geography a great deal. If you take a look at the European Union, for instance, we've had a number of things that have been a bit of a blow to the airline industry on the whole. One of those has been the increase in APD that we saw in November, the airport departure tax, which obviously the costs are passed along to the passenger, and the airline is having to also advertise a higher fare, so that causes some difficulty. We have the introduction of the European Union Emission Trading Scheme, or the EU ETS, which is going to take effect finally in 2012. That is going to offset carbon costs for the airlines. Unfortunately, they're going to have to spend money to offset those costs in the EU Trading Bank, which is obviously going to be passed along to consumers eventually. So passengers will find that they will be paying a bit more. Now, this isn't affecting only European carriers. Unfortunately, it's anyone operating through the Eurocontrol zone. So we have carriers even from the Asian market, from the North American market, etc., that are also going to be impacted by this decision. And so inevitably we'll see some price rises that come of that. In addition, we have other countries starting to examine putting in place APD, or airport departure taxes, such as Germany, while we have other countries that have repealed those same decisions in order to stimulate their economies, such as the Dutch. And so I think overall the economic scene is very positive in Europe. We've also seen passenger numbers increasing both in the front of the cabin, which is excellent, and we've also seen economy passenger numbers take a slight hit, but overall are picking up. For the U.S. market, the outlook has been very interesting. They have seen an increase in passenger numbers over the past year, but again, they also suffered from some severe winter weather, which seemed to be universal transatlantically this year. The estimates in the United States have been the total for those losses could top over $600 million for American carriers alone. So that's a significant bite to an otherwise tight margin in the United States. I think we also have the continued consolidation in the U.S. We're seeing, obviously, United and Continental beginning that final process of consolidation, and then we also have Delta and Northwest finishing that process. So both the airlines will profit from synergies, and passengers will also profit from more opportunity, I think. We also have this year the introduction of the Japan-US bilateral agreement, newly negotiated this year, which will allow for the first time American carriers access into Tokyo Haneda Airport, which is the crown jewel of Tokyo because it shaves off about an hour to 45 minutes worth of travel time from Narita as it stands today. And so that's a great advantage for people like American Airlines who are going to be taking those new slots. So I think overall the U.S. outlook is somewhat positive. For low-cost carriers in the U.S., there continues to be, I think, a little bit of a challenge to identify themselves from the legacy carriers because everyone has unbundled the product. Speaking about Asia, the good news is we have seen a rise in both business class and economy numbers overall, and I think that we're going to see continued growing demand out of China, which can only be positive for everyone. I think that's due to a number of different factors. The first is an easement of travel restrictions from the Chinese government for their nationals, and also I think some destinations also loosening the requirements for Chinese nationals as well. I think overall we're also going to see some interesting aircraft orders continue to come out of the Chinese market. I think that we'll also see continued growth and strength from Cathay Pacific, who are offering a wonderful set of products, and also from Singapore, who have also an interesting hub and a great product on offer as well. Looking towards the Korean and Japanese markets, we continue to see ANA take up a lot of what previously JAL had provided while JAL undergoes a positive reorganization. And then we also can take a look at Korean Airlines and see that they've introduced a wide range of new products that are quite interesting, and a lot of their onboard products in particular. If we look at Australasia, you have a lot of very interesting products happening there. There's been some challenges this year, obviously, for them geographically and economically, but I think overall that you see some very positive moves in that market. I think we'll also continue to see growing numbers from the U.S. into that sector, and so we'll see increased competition potentially from a number of new market entrants. In the Middle East, we continue to see Emirates move from strength to strength, not only in in-flight product, but also in its route structure. With the new build of Jebel Ali Airport and its focus on cargo, that frees up a number of landing slots in Dubai's main airport, which is going to allow for a much more efficient connection experience for passengers and for Emirates as a carrier. So I think of that as only a positive. I think what's also interesting is you see carriers like Etihad beginning to provide an all-economy product, whereas they had made a name for themselves in a very high-end interior. They're now going to be providing on selected medium-haul routes into India and some other locations an all-economy product, which will be very interesting to watch and see what those results look like. I think overall, Middle Eastern carriers will continue to move from strength to strength, not only with their product, but also with their passenger numbers in the foreseeable future. And then for South America, there's a lot of dynamic things happening in that market. Particularly, you see Avianca and Grupo TACA from Central America looking at that alliance and merger and making that work, which is only good for all passengers out of Central South America and Europe and North America. It's going to be offering them a greater choice of not only in-flight product, but also pricing. I think the British Airways-Iberia merger which also includes American Airlines, will also offer European passengers more opportunity into South America as well. And with the privatization of LAN Chile, I think that we can expect great things from them in the upcoming years as well.